I never thought I'd be the kind of person to crash a wedding. Honestly, the whole thing sounds like something out of a bad romantic comedy, doesn't it? The bitter ex-wife showing up uninvited to ruin the happy couple's special day. But I swear on everything I hold dear, that's not what happened. I didn't even know it was his wedding day. I had no idea that walking into that vineyard for a completely unrelated reason would turn my entire world upside down for the second time in 3 years. Let me back up. My name is Caroline, I'm 34 years old, and 3 years ago I divorced the man I thought was the love of my life. His name is, God, I still don't know what tense to use. His name is Daniel. We met in college, one of those magical, serendipitous meetings that you see in movies. I was a literature major, he was studying architecture, and we literally ran into each other in the library. I was carrying a stack of books that went flying, he helped me pick them up, and we started talking about the novel on top of my pile. 6 hours later, we were still in that library, whispering and laughing, and I knew. I just knew he was it for me. We dated for 4 years, got married right after graduation, and for 8 years I thought we had the perfect marriage. We had our struggles, sure. What couple doesn't? But we always worked through them. We talked about everything. Or at least I thought we did. We were trying for a baby, I was working as a high school English teacher, and Daniel had just made partner at his architecture firm. Life was good. Life was really, really good. Until it wasn't. The divorce came out of nowhere. At least it felt that way to me. Daniel came home one evening in March, 3 years ago, and told me he wasn't happy. Just like that. No preamble, no warning signs I had noticed. He said he felt like we'd grown into different people, that he needed to find himself, that he couldn't be the husband I deserved. All the cliches you hear about in divorce stories, he used every single one. I was devastated. I begged him to go to counseling, to give us a chance to work on whatever was wrong. I asked him if there was someone else. He looked me right in the eyes and said no. He swore there was no one else. He said this was about him, about his own journey, about needing to be alone to figure out who he really was. Like an idiot, I believed him. I signed the papers, we split everything as amicably as possible, and I moved out of our beautiful Victorian home into a small apartment across town. I cried for months. My best friend Rachel practically moved in with me to make sure I was eating and getting out of bed. It took me 2 full years to feel like myself again. 2 years of therapy, of learning to be alone, of rediscovering who Caroline was without Daniel. I threw myself into my teaching, I took up pottery, I traveled to Europe by myself that summer. I was finally okay. Not happy, not yet, but okay. I could think about Daniel without crying. I could walk past our old favorite restaurant without having a panic attack. I was healing. And then 6 months ago, I met someone. His name was Tom, and he was a fellow teacher at my school. Nothing serious, just casual dating, but it felt good to be open to the possibility of love again. We'd been on maybe 10 dates, and I was taking it slow, but I was hopeful. For the first time since the divorce, I felt like maybe I could have that again. Maybe I could trust someone again. Now here's where the story really begins. Tom's sister was getting married. Her name was Jessica, and I'd met her twice, briefly. She seemed nice enough, if a bit reserved. Tom had invited me to the wedding as his +1, and I'd said yes. I was nervous about it. It would be my first wedding since my divorce, and I wasn't sure how I'd handle it emotionally. But Tom was so sweet about it, telling me there was no pressure, that we could leave early if I needed to. So I'd bought a new dress, a simple but elegant navy blue thing that made me feel pretty, and I'd mentally prepared myself. The wedding was at a vineyard about an hour outside the city. Beautiful place, rolling hills, rows of grapevines, a gorgeous old barn that had been converted into an event space. Tom had to be there early because he was walking his sister down the aisle. Their father had passed away a few years before, so we'd driven separately. I was running late because I'd had trouble with my hair, and when I finally pulled up to the vineyard, the parking lot was already full. I had to park way in the back. As I was walking up the gravel path toward the barn, I heard music starting. Shit. I was really late. The ceremony was beginning. I walked faster, my heels crunching on the gravel, and I was texting Tom an apology when I heard a voice that made my blood run cold. Caroline, Caroline, I knew that voice. I would know that voice anywhere in any context until the day I died. I looked up, and there he was, Daniel, my ex-husband, standing on the path about 20 feet ahead of me, wearing a tuxedo, looking at me like he'd seen a ghost. My first thought was that he must be a guest at the wedding. What a horrible coincidence. My second thought was that I needed to turn around and leave immediately. But before I could move, before I could even process what was happening, Daniel was running toward me. "Caroline," he said again, and his voice was shaking. "What are you doing here?" I'm here for the wedding," I stammered. "Tom invited me. Tom is—" "Wait, what are you doing here?" Daniel's face went white, literally white. All the color drained from it. "Tom," he repeated. "Tom who?" "Tom Patterson. His sister is getting married today, Jessica Patterson." And then I watched Daniel's face do something I'd never seen before. It crumpled. That's the only word for it. It was like watching a building collapse in on itself. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no, Caroline, oh God, Caroline, I'm the groom." The world tilted. I actually staggered, had to put my hand out to steady myself against a fence post. "You're what?" "I'm marrying Jessica. Today, right now. Jessica Patterson is my fiancé." I couldn't breathe. I literally could not get air into my lungs. The man I was casually dating for 6 months, his sister was marrying my ex-husband. The ex-husband who had told me he needed to be alone. Who had said there was no one else, who had sworn he just needed to find himself. "When?" I managed to choke out. When did you too?" Daniel looked like he might be sick. "Caroline, I can explain." "I wanted to tell you, I tried to." "When, Daniel?" 2 years ago. We started dating about a year after you and I, after we—" He couldn't even say it. "We met through work. She's an interior designer, and her firm was collaborating with mine on a project." Math swirled in my head. 2 years ago, a year after our divorce. But wait. "You said you needed to be alone," I said, and my voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from somewhere else. "You said you needed to find yourself. You promised me there was no one else." "There wasn't. When we divorced, there wasn't anyone else, I swear, Caroline. I really did need time alone, and then I met Jessica, and—" "How long?" I interrupted. "How long have you been engaged?" He hesitated. 14 months. 14 months over a year. And in all that time, in a city that wasn't even that big, we'd never run into each other. I'd never heard through mutual friends. He'd never thought to give me a heads up that he was getting married. And I'd been dating his future brother-in-law for 6 months without anyone mentioning that Jessica's fiancé was named Daniel, or showing me a picture, or any of the 1,000 ways this could have been avoided. "Does she know about me?" I asked. "Of course she knows about you." "She knows I was married before." "Does she know my name?" Another hesitation, longer this time. I told her your name was Carolyn." "Carolyn, I don't know why I did that. It just came out the first time, and then I couldn't correct it without it being weird, and—" I laughed. I actually laughed, this horrible, broken sound that startled both of us. "You changed my name. You couldn't even let me keep my own name in your history." "Caroline, please, does Tom know?" I cut him off. "Does Tom know that his sister's fiancé is my ex-husband?" "I don't. I didn't know you were seeing anyone named Tom. I didn't know you knew the family. How could I have known?" He had a point, as much as I hated to admit it. Tom and I had been casual. I hadn't talked about my ex much, just mentioned I'd been married before and it hadn't worked out. And apparently Tom hadn't talked about his future brother-in-law much either, or had only used his first name, and I'd never made the connection. Why would I? Daniel isn't exactly an uncommon name. "I have to go," I said, backing away. "I have to leave. I can't be here." "Wait." Daniel grabbed my arm and I jerked away like he'd burned me. "Caroline, wait. We need to talk. I need to explain." "Explain what? That you're marrying someone else? That you've been engaged for over a year? That you lied to me about needing to be alone? What exactly do you need to explain, Daniel?" "I didn't lie. Not really. I did need to be alone when we divorced. I wasn't ready to be married. I wasn't ready for the life we were building. I was 22 when we got married, Caroline. 22. I didn't know who I was. And you do now. You're 35 years old, Daniel, not some teenager. You married me. You promised me forever. And then you threw it away because you needed to find yourself. And apparently what you found was another woman just a year later. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me, please, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you met someone else and didn't have the guts to admit it. So you fed me some bullshit about needing to be alone and let me spend 2 years thinking I wasn't enough for you." Voices were coming from the barn now. Someone was calling Daniel's name. "I have to go," Daniel said, and he looked genuinely torn. "The ceremony is supposed to start, but Caroline, please, don't leave. We need to talk after. I need to." There's so much I should have said. "You need to get married," I said flatly. "Your bride is waiting. Don't let me keep you." I turned and started walking back toward my car. My whole body was shaking. I heard Daniel call my name once more, but I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. I was almost to my car when Tom came running up behind me. Caroline, there you are. The ceremony already started. We need to wait. What's wrong? Are you crying? I hadn't even realized I was crying. I touched my face and my fingers came away wet. Tom, I have to leave. I'm so sorry. I can't be here. What? Why? What happened? How do you explain this? How do you say? Your sister is marrying my ex-husband, the one I told you about, the one who broke my heart, and I had no idea until about 3 minutes ago. The groom, I said. Tom, it's Daniel. Your sister is marrying my ex-husband. Tom's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, realization, and finally horror. Daniel Hoffman, Dan is your ex-husband. You call him Dan. Everyone in the family calls him Dan. He goes by Dan. I didn't. You said your ex-husband's name was Daniel. I never. Oh my God, Caroline, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. How could you have known? I said, echoing Daniel's words. It's not your fault, but I have to go. I can't watch them get married. I just can't. No, wait, come here. Tom pulled me into a hug and I started crying harder against his shoulder. This is so fucked up. I'm so sorry. Did you talk to him? Briefly. He's freaking out. I think he might have canceled the ceremony when he saw me. I don't know. Someone was calling for him. Jesus Christ. Tom pulled back and looked at me. What do you want to do? Do you want me to come with you? I can leave. Jess will understand. No, you can't leave. It's your sister's wedding. You have to walk her down the aisle. You're more important right now. Tom, I've known you for 6 months. Jessica is your sister. Go, be there for her. I'll be fine. I wouldn't be fine, but that wasn't his problem. Let me at least walk you to your car. He did, his arm around my shoulders, and I felt guilty for leaning into him when I absolutely knew, that whatever had been developing between us was over now. There was no way we could date after this. It was too complicated, too messy. When we got to my car, Tom kissed my forehead. I'll call you later, okay? After all this is over, we'll talk. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and got in my car. I sat there for a moment, my hands on the steering wheel, trying to process what had just happened. And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. Daniel was running out of the barn, still in his tuxedo, running full speed toward the parking lot, toward me. I started my car immediately, but he was faster. He reached my car just as I was putting it in reverse and slammed his hand on the hood. Caroline, please, just give me 5 minutes. Your bride is waiting for you, I shouted through the closed window. I told her I needed a minute. I told her there was an emergency, please. Against my better judgment, against all common sense, really, I turned off the car and got out. 5 minutes, I said. Talk. Daniel ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered so well it hurt. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry, Caroline. You have to believe me. When we got divorced, I wasn't seeing Jessica. I wasn't seeing anyone. I really did need to be alone. But just for a year. I didn't plan it. I didn't go looking for someone else. Jessica and I worked on a project together and we became friends, and it just happened, slowly. I didn't even realize I had feelings for her until... Stop. I held up my hand. I don't need the details of how you fell in love with someone else. That's not going to help me right now. Then what do you need? Tell me what you need, Caroline, because I can't. I can't get married with you thinking I'm some kind of monster who lied to you and broke your heart for no reason. But you did break my heart. And maybe you didn't lie at the exact moment of our divorce, but you've been lying by omission for 2 years. You got engaged and didn't tell me. You're getting married today, and I had to find out by literally running into you. How was I supposed to tell you? We haven't spoken in 3 years. You could have called. You could have sent a message through one of our mutual friends. You could have done literally anything other than let me find out like this. Daniel's face crumpled again. You're right. God, you're right. I should have told you. I wanted to so many times, but I was a coward. I didn't want to hurt you all over again. I didn't want to rub my happiness in your face when I knew how badly I'd hurt you. So instead you let me get blindsided at your wedding. I didn't know you'd be here. We stood there, staring at each other, both breathing hard. In the distance, I could hear confused voices coming from the barn. The wedding was in chaos. Good. You need to go back, I finally said. Jessica is probably losing her mind. I can't just... Caroline, are we okay? I need to know that we're okay. Okay? I laughed that horrible laugh again. Daniel, we're not okay. We're never going to be okay. You married me when you weren't ready. You divorced me when I was completely blindsided. And now you're marrying someone else while I'm trying to move on with my life. None of this is okay. I loved you, he said quietly. I need you to know that. When we were married, I really loved you. Past tense. Yeah, I got that 3 years ago. That's not what I meant. Go back to your bride, Daniel. Forget you saw me. Marry Jessica, be happy, and let me leave. But before either of us could move, we heard another voice. A woman's voice, high and panicked. Daniel, Daniel, what's going on? Dan. We both turned to see Jessica running toward us, still in her wedding dress. And oh God, she was beautiful. Blonde, delicate, everything I wasn't. The dress was gorgeous, all lace and flowing tulle, and she looked like a princess. Of course she did. Behind her, Tom was following, looking absolutely miserable. Jessica reached us and immediately grabbed Daniel's arm. What are you doing? Everyone is waiting. You said there was an emergency. I thought something terrible had happened. Her eyes slid to me, taking in my navy dress, my tear-stained face, Daniel's guilty expression. I watched her put it together. Who is this? She asked, but her voice suggested she already knew. Jessica, Daniel started, but I cut him off. I'm Caroline, I said, extending my hand on autopilot, some bizarre instinct for politeness kicking in at the worst possible moment. Daniel's ex-wife. Apparently we've never properly met. Jessica didn't take my hand. She was staring at me like I was a bomb about to explode. Caroline, I corrected. He changed my name, apparently. Jessica's head whipped toward Daniel. You told me her name was Caroline. It was a mistake, Why is she here? Did you invite her? Jessica's voice was getting higher, more hysterical. No, God, no. She's here with Tom. She didn't know I was the groom. Jessica looked at her brother, who nodded miserably. It's true, Jess. Caroline and I have been seeing each other. I had no idea she was Dan's ex-wife. She told me her ex's name was Daniel, and we all call him Dan, and we never put it together. You're dating my brother. Jessica asked me, and I couldn't tell if she was angry or just shocked. Was dating, I said. I think we can safely say that's over now. This is insane, Jessica said. This is absolutely insane. We're supposed to be getting married right now. We have 200 people in that barn waiting. What is happening? I'm leaving, I said. I'm going, and you're going to go back and get married, and we can all pretend this never happened. Wait, Jessica said, and there was something in her voice that made me pause. How long have you and Tom been together? About 6 months, Tom answered for me. Why does that matter? 6 months, Jessica repeated. She was looking at me strangely now. Did you know? Did you somehow find out about the wedding and plan this? It took a moment for her words to register. Excuse me. This is a hell of a coincidence, don't you think? Daniel's ex-wife just happens to start dating my brother 6 months before our wedding. Just happens to show up here today. Anger, hot and sharp, cut through my devastation. Are you seriously suggesting I orchestrated this? I didn't even know your last name was Patterson until 2 weeks ago. I didn't know Daniel was getting married. I didn't know he even knew anyone named Jessica. It just seems very convenient. Convenient. I just had my heart broken all over again in a parking lot while my ex-husband abandons his own wedding. Nothing about this is convenient for me. Jess, come on, Tom said. This isn't Caroline's fault. This is just a terrible coincidence. Is it, though? Jessica was fully in panic mode now, I could see it. Her perfect day was falling apart and she needed someone to blame. I mean, what are the odds? How do we know she didn't plan this whole thing to ruin our wedding? Because I'm not a psychopath, I shouted. Because I spent 2 years getting over your fiancé, and I was finally happy, finally moving on, and then this happened. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to see the man I thought I'd spend my life with marrying someone else? She didn't know, Jessica, Daniel said quietly. He'd been silent during our exchange, just watching us. This is my fault. I should have told her I was getting married. I should have made sure this couldn't happen. You should have told her. Jessica turned on him now. Why? Why would you need to tell your ex-wife that you're getting married? You've been divorced for 3 years. Because it was the right thing to do. Because she deserved to know. So what, you're still in love with her? Is that what this is? The question hung in the air like a grenade. Daniel's face did something complicated. No, I love you, Jess. I want to marry you. But, Jessica pressed. I heard a but in there. But I never gave Caroline closure. I never explained things properly. I just left, and I let her believe that she wasn't enough, and that's haunted me for 3 years. And now she's here, and she's been crying, and I needed to make sure she was okay before I could go through with the ceremony. I needed to know that we could end things properly this time. End things? You ended things 3 years ago. You're divorced. Legally, yes, but there is no but. Jessica was crying now, mascara running down her face. There is no but when you're about to marry someone else. You don't get to have unfinished business with your ex-wife on our wedding day. You're right, Daniel said. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. Let's go back. Let's get married. But Jessica was shaking her head. I can't marry you right now. Not like this. Not when you're clearly still tangled up with her. I'm not tangled up with her. You ran out on our wedding. You left me at the altar to chase after your ex-wife in a parking lot. That's not fair. I came out here to explain, to make sure she was all right. And that's exactly the problem, Daniel. Today is supposed to be about us, about our marriage. But instead, you're worried about Caroline's feelings. Someone should be, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. Someone should have been worried about my feelings 3 years ago when Daniel divorced me out of nowhere. Someone should have been worried about my feelings when he got engaged and didn't bother to mention it. And someone should definitely be worried about my feelings right now, when I just discovered that the man I've been casually dating for 6 months is about to become my ex-husband's brother-in-law. So yeah, maybe Daniel running out here isn't about you, Jessica. Maybe for once, someone is thinking about the person who got hurt in all of this. Jessica's mouth opened and closed. Tom was staring at me with something that looked like admiration. Daniel looked like he might cry. I'm sorry you got hurt, Jessica finally said, and she sounded like she meant it. I am, but that doesn't change the fact that my wedding is falling apart right now. Then go have your wedding, I said, suddenly exhausted. I'm leaving. Daniel can come with you, you can get married, and I will never darken your doorstep again. I promise. I got back in my car without waiting for a response. This time, no one tried to stop me. I backed out of my parking space, put the car in drive, and left the vineyard. In my rearview mirror, I could see the 3 of them standing there, Daniel in his tuxedo, Jessica in her wedding dress, Tom in his suit, all looking lost. I made it about 5 miles before I had to pull over because I was crying too hard to see the road. The next few days were a blur. I called in sick to work, which I never do. I ignored my phone, which had about 1 million messages from Tom, several from numbers I didn't recognize, and even one from Daniel that just said, I'm sorry. Rachel came over with wine and ice cream and let me cry on her couch while I explained the whole insane situation. So wait, she said, trying to follow the thread. Your ex-husband, who told you he needed to be alone, got engaged to someone a year after your divorce, didn't tell you, and then you accidentally ended up at his wedding because you were dating the bride's brother. That's the gist of it. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. This is like a bad soap opera plot. Tell me about it. Did they end up getting married? I have no idea. I left. You should find out. Why would I want to know that? Rachel gave me a look. Caroline, come on, you're telling me you're not curious? I was curious. I was desperately, pathetically curious. But I couldn't bring myself to ask Tom, and I definitely wasn't going to ask Daniel. As it turned out, I didn't have to wait long to find out. 3 days after the wedding that maybe was, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Caroline, it's Jessica. Jessica Patterson, or Jessica Hoffman, I guess. So they had gotten married. Something twisted in my chest. Hi, I said, because what else do you say? I'm sorry to bother you. Tom gave me your number. I hope that's okay. It's fine. What do you need? There was a long pause. I wanted to apologize. For what I said at the wedding, about you planning it or trying to ruin things. I was upset and scared and I lashed out at you, and that wasn't fair. It's okay. It was a crazy situation. It really was. Another pause. We did get married, by the way, eventually. We went back and I fixed my makeup and we had the ceremony. It was fine. Fine, what a word to use for your wedding day. Congratulations, I said, and I almost meant it. Thank you. Listen, Caroline, I also wanted to say, I think Daniel treated you really badly, both in the divorce and in how he handled everything after, and I'm sorry for my part in that. I didn't know he'd lied to you about needing to be alone. He told me that you two had mutually agreed to divorce because you wanted different things. That was news to me. That's not what happened. I'm starting to realize that. We've been having a lot of conversations over the past few days. A lot of things are coming to light that I didn't know before. Like what? Like the fact that he told you there was no one else when you divorced, which made it seem like he'd moved on very quickly when we got together. Like the fact that he changed your name when he talked about you to me, which is honestly really weird, and I don't know why he did that. Like the fact that he never properly explained to you why he wanted a divorce. He just said he needed to be alone and left you to draw your own conclusions. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you deserve the truth. The real truth, not Daniel's version of it. My heart was pounding. What's the real truth, Jessica? Can we meet? I'd rather do this in person. I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I think you and I need to talk. Without Daniel or Tom or anyone else there. This was a terrible idea. I should say no. I should hang up and block her number and move on with my life. Okay, I said. When and where? We met 2 days later at a coffee shop halfway between our respective homes. I got there first and ordered a coffee I didn't drink, just turned the cup around and around in my hands while I waited. When Jessica walked in, I almost didn't recognize her without the wedding dress and the panic. She was pretty, I had to admit, really pretty, and she looked tired. She ordered a tea and sat down across from me. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. "I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure I would either. How are you doing? And please don't say you're fine. I know this has to be awful." "It's been a rough week," I admitted. "How was the honeymoon?" "We didn't go. We postponed it." "Things have been complicated since the wedding. I'm sorry. Don't be. This isn't your fault." She took a sip of her tea. "Caroline, I need to tell you some things about Daniel, things I think he should have told you himself a long time ago." "I'm not sure I want to know. I think you need to know for your own closure if nothing else." I nodded slowly. "Okay, talk." Jessica took a deep breath. "When Daniel told me about his first marriage, he made it sound like you two had gotten married too young and grown apart. He said you wanted to start a family right away, and he wasn't ready, that you had different life goals, that the divorce was mutual and amicable." "That's not true. None of that is true. I mean, yes, we were young when we got married, but we didn't grow apart. Or at least I didn't think we had. And yes, we were talking about having kids, but he was on board with that. He was excited about it, and the divorce was definitely not mutual. He blindsided me with it. I believe you, because here's the thing, after the wedding, after you left, Daniel and I had a huge fight. I mean huge. I told him he clearly wasn't over you and maybe we shouldn't have gotten married, and he insisted that wasn't true, that he loves me and wants to be with me. But I pushed. I told him I needed to know the whole truth about why he divorced you, because clearly the story he'd told me didn't add up. And he finally admitted that the real reason he divorced you had nothing to do with you at all. It was about him. He said he woke up one day and had a full-blown panic attack about his life. He felt like everything had been decided for him, college, career, marriage, and he hadn't really chosen any of it. He felt trapped. He said he looked at your life together and saw the next 50 years mapped out, and it terrified him. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. So he just left. He blew up our entire marriage because he was scared. Essentially, yes. He said he convinced himself that the only way to figure out who he really was to be completely alone. No relationship, no one else's expectations, just him. For a year, he figured out who he was in a year. He said he realized pretty quickly that he'd made a mistake, that he did want to be married, he did want a partner, he just needed to feel like he'd chosen it for himself, like it was his decision and not something that had just happened to him. So he met you. So he met me. And I think, this is just my interpretation, but I think part of why he was attracted to me was because I was the opposite of that panic. I wasn't part of his old life. I didn't have expectations based on who he'd been at 22. I was a blank slate. He could be whoever he wanted to be with me. I sat back in my chair, trying to process this. Did he tell you why he lied to me? Why he didn't just explain all of this when he asked for the divorce? He said he was ashamed. He knew how selfish it sounded. He knew you'd be devastated. And he thought it would be easier for you to move on if you thought it was about compatibility or growing apart, rather than just him having a quarter-life crisis and blowing up your marriage because of it. "Easier for me," I repeated flatly. He thought lying to me would be easier for me. I know, it's messed up. It's beyond messed up, Jessica. I spent 2 years thinking I wasn't enough, thinking that something about me or our marriage had failed. I tortured myself trying to figure out what I'd done wrong, what I could have done differently. And the whole time, it had nothing to do with me. It was just Daniel having a panic attack and deciding to burn our life down. I'm so sorry, Caroline. You deserved better than that. I was crying again. God, I was so sick of crying. Why are you telling me this? You're his wife now. Shouldn't you be protecting him? Because it's not fair. What he did to you isn't fair, and you deserve to know the truth. And honestly, because I'm starting to wonder if he did the same thing to me. I looked up sharply. What do you mean? Jessica's eyes were shining with unshed tears. The way he freaked out when he saw you at the wedding. The way he ran after you, left me standing there in my wedding dress. The things he said about needing to give you closure before he could marry me. Caroline, I don't think he's over you. I don't think he ever properly dealt with the guilt of what he did to you, and now it's poisoning our marriage before it's even really started. What are you going to do? I don't know. We're supposed to be starting our life together, but instead we're in couples counseling trying to unpack his first marriage. How messed up is that? Pretty messed up. We sat in silence for a moment. Can I ask you something? Jessica said. When you were married to him, was he happy? Did he seem happy? I thought about it, Really thought about it, looking back on our marriage with this new information coloring everything. I thought he was, but now I don't know. Maybe I was just seeing what I wanted to see. Maybe there were signs I missed. Did he ever talk about feeling trapped? No, never. He talked about our future. He made plans. We picked out names for our hypothetical kids, for God's sake. If he was feeling trapped, he hid it completely. That's what scares me, Jessica said quietly. What if he's doing the same thing with me? What if he wakes up one day and decides he's made another mistake? Then you'll deal with it. You'll survive it. You're stronger than you think. You survived it. Barely, and only with a lot of therapy and wine. Jessica laughed, a watery sound. I'm really sorry, Caroline, for all of it. You didn't deserve any of this. Neither did you. You thought you were marrying someone who was fully available, and instead you got someone with a lot of unresolved baggage. Yeah, she wiped her eyes. For what it's worth, Tom really likes you. He's been beating himself up about the whole situation. He thinks he ruined things with you. It's not his fault. That's what I told him. He wants to call you, but he wasn't sure if you'd want to hear from him. I don't know if I do, I admitted. This is all still so fresh and complicated. I understand. I just wanted you to know that he cares about you. And so do I, weirdly. I know we barely know each other, but I feel like we're connected now, whether we want to be or not. The ex-wife and the new wife. We should start a support group. We really should. We talked for another hour about everything and nothing. About Daniel, about our lives, about how weird and cruel fate could be sometimes. By the time we parted ways, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. Lighter. Not happy, not okay, but lighter. Like maybe the truth, even when it hurt, was better than the lies I'd been living with. A week later, Tom called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Caroline, hi, I wasn't sure you'd answer. Hi, Tom, how are you? I've been better, you? Same. Listen, I know this is probably the last thing you want to hear, but I'd really like to see you. Just to talk. No pressure, no expectations, I miss you. I should have said no. The smart thing, the healthy thing, would be to cut ties completely. But I'd liked Tom. I'd really liked him before everything went to hell. Okay, I found myself saying, but somewhere neutral, and just as friends. Whatever you're comfortable with. We met at a park, walked around the lake while the sun set. It was awkward at first, both of us dancing around the elephant in the room, but eventually we fell into easier conversation. Jessica told me she met with you, Tom said. She said you two talked about Daniel. She told me some things I needed to hear. I'm grateful to her for that, actually. She likes you. She feels awful about everything. How are things with them, should I even ask? Tom sighed. Honestly, not great. They're trying, but there's a lot of tension. Daniel knows he messed up, but I don't think he knows how to fix it. And Jessica is questioning everything now. That's rough. Yeah. Part of me feels guilty, like if I'd never invited you to the wedding, none of this would have happened. But it would have happened eventually, right? I mean, if we'd kept dating, we would have met Daniel and Jessica at some point. Better to find out now than 6 months or a year down the line. I guess, still feels shitty. Everything about this feels shitty. We walked in silence for a bit. Can I ask you something? Tom said. And you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but do you still have feelings for Daniel? I thought about it, really thought about it. No, I finally said. I don't think I do. I mean, there's history there, obviously. You don't just erase 8 years of marriage and 3 years of healing. But seeing him at the wedding, talking to him in that parking lot, hearing the truth from Jessica about why he really left. It didn't make me want him back. It made me realize that the man I fell in love with might not have ever really existed. Or if he did, he's not that person anymore. And neither am I. That's really mature of you. Trust me, it doesn't feel mature. It feels sad and exhausting and frustrating, but it's the truth. For what it's worth, I don't think Daniel deserved you, either then or now. I smiled. Thanks, Tom. And I know things between us are complicated beyond belief, but I meant what I said. I miss you. I liked what we were building before everything went sideways. I liked it too. But Tom, I don't know if we can go back to that. Your sister is married to my ex-husband. Every family dinner, every holiday, every major life event, we'd all be tangled up together. That's a lot of baggage to bring into a relationship that's only 6 months old. What if I think you're worth it? What if I'm not sure I am? Tom stopped walking and turned to face me. Caroline, you are worth it. You're smart and funny and kind, and you didn't deserve what Daniel did to you. If you need time, I get it. If you decide you can't do this because it's too complicated, I'll understand that too. But I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere, and if you ever want to give this another shot, I'm all in. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just hugged him, and we stood there by the lake as the sun finished setting, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe things might actually be okay someday. 2 months passed. I threw myself into work, into my hobbies, into my friends. I didn't see Tom, though we texted occasionally. I didn't see or hear from Daniel or Jessica. Life started to feel normal again, or at least a new version of normal. And then, one random Tuesday evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Daniel standing on my doorstep, looking nervous and uncomfortable. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, but I need to talk to you. Please, just for a few minutes." Every instinct told me to slam the door in his face, but curiosity won out. I stepped aside and let him in. We sat in my living room, the same living room where I'd cried for weeks after our divorce, and he looked around like he was seeing a ghost. "New place," he said. "I moved a year after the divorce, couldn't stay in the apartment near our old house." "Right, that makes sense." Silence. "Why are you here, Daniel?" He took a deep breath. "Jessica and I are separating." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "What? Why?" "Because she was right. At the wedding, when she said I wasn't over you, she was right. Not in the way you might think," he added quickly. "I'm not still in love with you." But I never dealt with the guilt of what I did to you. I never forgave myself for how I handled our divorce. And that guilt has been eating away at my marriage to Jessica since day one. "Daniel, let me finish, please." He ran his hand through his hair again. "I've been in therapy, a lot of therapy, and I've realized that I've spent my entire adult life running from things that scare me. I ran from our marriage because the commitment terrified me. I ran into a relationship with Jessica because it felt safe and new, and I didn't have to deal with what I'd done to you. And now I'm running again because I couldn't make that marriage work either. I'm sorry that's happening to you, but I don't understand why you're telling me this. Because I owe you the real truth, not the sanitized version I gave you 3 years ago. You asked me why I wanted a divorce, and I fed you some bullshit about needing to find myself. But the real reason was that I was a coward. I was 22 when we got married, Caroline, and I thought I knew what I wanted. But by the time I was 30, I looked at our life and had a panic attack. I felt like I'd never made any real choices, like I'd just followed a script that had been written for me. College, career, marriage, kids, it all felt inevitable instead of chosen. So you chose to leave. I chose to blow everything up, yes. And I told myself it was the right thing to do, that I needed to be alone to figure out who I was. But really, I was just scared. Scared of commitment, scared of responsibility, scared of being locked into one life forever. And then you met Jessica and committed to her, got married again. How does that make sense? It doesn't, that's the problem. My therapist thinks I jumped into things with Jessica too fast, before I'd really dealt with my issues from our marriage. I think part of me wanted to prove that I could do it, that I could be married and happy and not feel trapped. But I just brought all my same fears and baggage into a new relationship, and it poisoned things from the start. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated. I'd been right. He had been the problem, not me. But another part of me just felt sad. Sad for him, sad for Jessica, sad for the mess we were all in. "I'm sorry about you and Jessica," I finally said. "I really am, but Daniel, I still don't understand why you're here. What do you want from me?" "I want to apologize, properly. I'm sorry for how I ended our marriage. I'm sorry for lying to you about why. I'm sorry for not giving you the closure you deserved. And I'm sorry for the wedding, for putting you in that impossible situation. You deserved so much better than what I gave you, Caroline. You deserved honesty and respect and a real explanation, and instead I was a coward who took the easy way out." "Okay," I said quietly. "Apology accepted. Just like that? What else do you want me to say? You're right, you were a coward. You hurt me badly, but I've spent 3 years healing from that, and I'm not going to let you reopen those wounds now. So yes, apology accepted. We're both adults, we both made mistakes, and now we move on." "Did you make mistakes?" "Because from where I'm sitting, you were a perfect wife, and I was the one who screwed everything up. I'm sure I made mistakes too. Maybe I was too comfortable, too complacent. Maybe I should have noticed you were unhappy. Maybe I should have." "No." Daniel cut me off. "No, don't do that. Don't blame yourself for my issues. You were a wonderful wife, Caroline. The problem was never you, it was always me." We sat there for a long moment. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Did you ever regret it, divorcing me?" Daniel looked at me with so much pain in his eyes that I almost took the question back. "Every day," he whispered. "Not because I think we should have stayed married. I don't know if we were really right for each other in the long run, but because of how I did it. I regret that every single day." I nodded. Thank you for telling me that. Are you okay? I mean, really okay? I'm getting there. It's been a rough few months, obviously, but I'm working through it. Tom's a good guy. If you decide to give him another chance, I think you'd be good together. That's weird advice coming from my ex-husband. Yeah, well. I'm trying to do better, be better. Part of that is wanting good things for you, even if they don't involve me. I appreciate that. Daniel stood up. I should go. Thank you for seeing me. And Caroline, I really am sorry for everything. I know. Goodbye, Daniel. Goodbye. I walked him to the door and watched him leave. As his car pulled away, I felt something shift inside me. Something that had been knotted up for 3 years finally loosened. I wasn't sure if it was forgiveness or just exhaustion or something else entirely, but it felt like an ending. A real one this time. I pulled out my phone and texted Tom. Are you free tomorrow night? I think we should talk. His response came almost immediately. I'll make time, dinner at 7. Sounds perfect. Dinner was good, really good. We talked about everything, the wedding, Daniel and Jessica's separation, where we stood, what we wanted. Tom told me he'd been seeing a therapist too, working through his own feelings about the situation. I told him about Daniel's visit, about the apology, about finally feeling like I could close that chapter of my life. So where does that leave us? Tom asked. I don't know, I admitted. This is still complicated. Your sister is still married to my ex-husband, even if they're separated. We're still going to be tangled up in each other's lives in weird ways. What if I don't care about complicated? You should care. Complicated has a way of becoming messy. Caroline. Tom reached across the table and took my hand. I've spent the last 2 months missing you, thinking about you, wondering if I'd blown my chance with you because of circumstances beyond either of our control. And I've decided that I don't care how complicated it is. I like you, I want to be with you, if you'll have me. I looked at our joined hands, at his earnest face, at the possibility of something good coming from all this chaos. Okay, I said, but we take it slow. We're honest with each other about everything. And if it gets to be too much, we're both allowed to walk away. Deal? Deal. He kissed me then, right there in the restaurant, and it felt like a beginning. That was 8 months ago. Tom and I are still together, taking it slow, building something real. Daniel and Jessica did get divorced, about 4 months after their separation. It was amicable, from what Tom tells me. Jessica is dating someone new now, someone who's apparently much better suited to her than Daniel ever was. Daniel is still in therapy, still working on himself, still trying to figure out who he is outside of a relationship. As for me, I'm good. Really, genuinely good for the first time in a long time. Tom and I are talking about moving in together, which would have seemed insane a year ago, but now feels right. I'm not scared of commitment anymore, not scared of building a life with someone. Because I know now that the right person won't make you feel trapped, they'll make you feel free. Do I still think about Daniel sometimes? Sure. You don't spend 8 years with someone and then just forget they existed. But when I think about him now, I don't feel heartbroken or angry or lost. I just feel neutral, like he's a character from a book I read a long time ago, important to my story but not part of my current chapter. And when I think about that day at the vineyard, when my whole world turned upside down in a parking lot, I don't feel devastated anymore. I feel grateful. Because if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have had the conversations I needed to have. I wouldn't have gotten real closure. And I wouldn't have given Tom and me a real shot. Life is strange sometimes. The worst moments can lead to the best outcomes. The most painful truths can set you free. And sometimes, your ex-husband trying to stop his own wedding the moment he sees you isn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning of a better one. Tom and I are hosting Thanksgiving this year. Just a small thing, Rachel and her husband, a few friends from work, Tom's mom. Jessica texted me last week to see if it would be weird if she came and brought her new boyfriend. A year ago, that would have been the most awkward thing I could imagine. But now I just texted back, the more the merrier, and meant it. Daniel won't be there. He's spending the holiday with his family, trying to rebuild those relationships. But he sent me a message a few days ago, just a simple, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're well. I sent back, you too, take care of yourself. And that felt like enough, like we'd finally found our equilibrium. Sometimes people ask me if I regret anything, marrying Daniel, divorcing him, showing up at that wedding. And the answer is no. All of it, even the painful parts, led me here. To this life, to this relationship, to this version of myself that's stronger and wiser and more whole than I've ever been. So why did my ex-husband try to stop his own wedding the moment he saw me? Because he was carrying around 3 years of guilt and unresolved feelings, and it all came crashing down in that moment. Because seeing me forced him to confront everything he'd been running from. Because sometimes the universe has a way of making sure you deal with your shit, whether you want to or not. But more importantly, that moment, that horrible, chaotic, devastating moment, ended up being exactly what I needed. It gave me closure. It gave me truth. It gave me the chance to really, finally, completely move on. And in the end, isn't that what we all want? Not a perfect life, but a real one. Not a relationship without complications, but one where the complications are worth it. Not to forget the past, but to make peace with it. I'm at peace now, finally, and that's worth more than any perfect wedding day could ever be.